Hello, everyone. Welcome to Alyssa Jean's Reviews. My name is Cadet Alyssa because this live stream is taking place before you all knew me back when I first joined Starfleet when I was a mere cadet and I was played by a different actress. But now here we are to talk about the exciting new show coming up next week. Star Trek Strange New Worlds, and here to talk about it with me is, of course, my brother Marc from Enchantment of Eternity. Say hello, Strange New Marc.
Hello, yes, great to be here. I've been watching a lot of trailers and behind the scenes stuff about this show, and it looks amazing. And I hope it's not a massive disappointment like season 2 of Picard was. But we can talk about that. Yeah, so.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of indications that it will not be on the level of that other Star Trek show that we've been forced to review.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not forced to review it, but we started it. You gotta finish it. So
yeah, I mean, but with the I remember when I first saw the trailers for season 2 of Picard, I'm like, oh my god, this looks awful. And I was like, well, hopefully it'll be good. Hopefully the trailer's not an indication. But no, it was actually worse than what the trailers indicated. But so hopefully the trailers is a good indication of Strange New Worlds looking good. That's going to be good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And we will rant about Picard, I think, in a separate live stream. We're gonna have a Picard bitch fest. We haven't worked out the time and date yet, but that'll happen. It's gonna be over. I think it's gonna be over on Marc's channel since I did the Discovery one and I'm doing this one. Anyways, the format of this is going to be, well, before I get into that, actually, let me say hello to all the people on the chat. Brandon Howells, Life in the Void, Norman Buckwald, Manny Jester, the usual suspects, the 4 people that always join me in my live chats. And I really, really, really appreciate seeing you all. Brandon says, I want a Picard rant. Don't worry, we'll have a whole stream dedicated just to that, but that's not why we are here. This week we are here to talk about Strange New Worlds, and the format is going to be we're going to just kind of talk about our overall thoughts, our expectations, feelings, what we're hoping for, why we're excited, that sort of thing. And then I wanted to go through the characters, at least all the ones we know about, and a lot of it is going to be based on those character trailers. Especially for the newer ones that we don't really know from before. So this is what we're going to do. And Marc, why don't you start us off? Just kind of talk about your feelings of the show, why you're excited, what you're hoping for, anything you want to talk about, really.
So I talked about this before, how I've always been fascinated with Captain Pike, and since I first became a Star Trek fan back when I was 11, 12 years old, like I loved the Cage, and honestly, I think I've always liked Pike better than Kirk, and I'd always wished that Pike became the captain that we knew, and so I've been wanting a Pike show for decades now, and I knew even back then, because in the early 90s, the actor who played Pike originally had passed away, so I knew they were going to have to recast even back then, but I didn't care. I still wanted a recast and wanted, see number 1 and a younger Spock. And so I'm all here for this. Now, of course, we got a preview for this in Discovery, and of course, Anson Mount is everything you would want from Captain Pike, even though it's not. His Pike is kind of different than the original one, but still, he is such an amazing character. He does such a great job. And so, yeah, so I'm extremely excited for this show. Now, I'm not a hater, and, Alyssa isn't either. We're not haters of all thing new track. We don't think Alex Kurtzman is the devil and everything he touched turns to shit. But I am a bit skeptical of the newer Trek. It hasn't, I guess, impressed me enough. I've been most impressed with Lower Decks is my favorite. Of course, season 2 of Picard has got me really trepidatious. But I think just because one thing sucks doesn't mean the other thing is going to suck as well. I think what I got the impression from Discovery, Picard, Lower Decks, Prodigy, everything's different and everything has its own different thing. And so I don't think you can, I think it's ridiculous to say, oh, because Alex Kurtzman is the producer, it's automatically going to suck. I don't think that's the case. But what I do think is they were trying very hard with Picard and Discovery to have this cinematic feel and have the camera spinning around and all this other bullshit. And that's what I'm most worried about with the lens flares and bullshit and with Strange New Worlds. But I don't think that's going to be the case. I'm watching the trailers, and from what everyone's saying, I feel like it's going to have that original series TNG Star Trek feel to it. And they might have more of it's definitely going to be more lighthearted and upbeat than the other newer Treks. But it's going to be, they're playing off the Marvel quippiness thing, which I'm okay with. I'm fine with it. You want to do that as a term for Star Trek, that's all good. So, yeah, I'm quite excited, and I hope that I'm not massively disappointed.
I don't think that we will be, because just from everything that I am seeing in the trailers, to your point about cutting back on the spinny cameras and the lens flares, I feel like it feels like original Trek, but in an updated way, which is how I felt when the Enterprise appeared on Discovery as well. But even more so, it just feels nostalgic. It feels like the original, but not from the 1960s. It's been updated for today, but it's able to cling on to something that makes it feel genuine. And I really like the feel of it from the trailers. And let me see, who was it that mentioned it earlier? Somebody was asking about was that Maddie? I lost it. Was asking about if we had seen the intro. Oh, it was Maddie. I see it. I don't know, Mark, have you gotten a chance to watch the intro? It was posted on YouTube.
I'm not sure. What intro are you talking about?
The intro to the show. It's up. Like what the intro is going to be. Although it can't be exact because they don't have the
you mean
actors'
like the
names.
opening credits thing?
Yeah.
Oh, no. I haven't seen that. No.
Although it doesn't have the credits on it. It doesn't have the actor's name, so I assume that'll be different. But it definitely is exactly that. It is playing off of the feel of the original, but is modern. It's updated, and it starts off with the Pike going space, the final frontier, and all that stuff. So they brought that back. And it's interesting, he says 5-year mission. But he also does say no one has gone before. He didn't go back to to the gender specific version, and the theme is loosely based on the original series theme, like the da, 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 but it's like they kind of builds from there, and it's more to it than that. And then it's flying around like the Next Generation or Voyager, like whoosh, whoosh, like going past asteroids, and it looks really cool. It looks really cool. And then it ends with the theremin going, and the Strange New Worlds comes up, and I'm like, oh, pumped! I'm so pumped for this show. So it got me excited, but yeah.
Well, so it doesn't begin with someone singing, "It's been a long time."
Ding, 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 ding. Our required one reference minimum to the Enterprise theme song in every discussion we do. We're not talking about Star Trek, and in a couple seconds here, Brandon will get get upset.
Yeah, get
that
upset.
we're
I'm
singing.
sorry, but that theme song is just so awful. I just love making fun of it. But anyway.
Yes, no one is singing. It's been a long road getting from here there to here.
I saw this YouTube title of the couple of Enterprise actors were at this convention just recently, like last week or something, and it says they defend theme song. And I'm like, I'm not even gonna watch it. I don't even want to watch them defend that fucking theme song.
There's no defense for it. No. Anyways, so to my point, like I do feel like it's gonna have that feel of the old Trek, and I am here for it. And to your point about Pike being a better captain than Kirk, if you thought that about the Jeffrey Hunter Pike, I mean, the Anson Mount Pike is such a better captain by like a million miles than Captain Kirk. Like he's smart. He knows how to connect with his crew and get them to trust him, but also can make the tough decisions. And we'll get into this more when we get into the character stuff, but they are going to portray him, I think, as a complex character where he's going to, even though he is this great captain, he's human too, and he's going to be going through some stuff. So it just looks fantastic, and it just looks like the characters, again, something I'll probably talk about when we get into the characters more specifically, but I am really loving some of the interactions that I've seen so far from the trailers, even though it's just a snippet here and there. You've mentioned that it's going to be lighthearted, which I think I'm going to really quite enjoy. I can already tell just from those little snippets that there's going to be great chemistry between these characters, and these characters are going to be well developed, and they're going to have chemistry in a way that Discovery never quite did, or at least not with its main bridge crew, where they're all like, they just spout off random things about their childhood.
You know, when I was a kid, I remember there's this time.
Yeah, and quite honestly, and I think you've disagreed with me when I've said this before, but I don't think any of the actors who play any of those bridge crew are very good actors. Even Detmer, I don't think they're very good actors, and I think that's why they don't have a lot of lines. But I don't know. I think that's going to be fixed here, or at least I'm hopeful, based off the trailers, that we're going to have a lot of great chemistry. I think I'm hoping like Next Generation or original series style like chemistry between the crew members, and there's a lot of hope to be had from those trailers that could be the case.
Yeah, I mean, I got the exact same sense that this looks like a good cast of characters, which is something I don't think a Trek show has had since Voyager. And I think that is one of Voyager's strengths, especially in the beginning. They had a really interesting cast of characters and camaraderie. The Enterprise characters were flat. Discovery, there was a couple of them, like the main ones, Saru and Burnham and stuff that worked, but most, as you say, all the bridge characters were nothing. No one characters, and they were expected to care about them for no reason. And and with Picard, don't even get me started on Picard. Like, they just suck so badly at developing this guy. I don't care about any of those other characters on that show. So this looks like back to what the original series TNG, DS9, and Voyager did. Like a great cast of characters that complement each other. And that's what I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah, hopefully that is true. That certainly is the impression that I'm getting. I wanted to talk to you too about the episodic nature of this, because when we very first heard about the show, I was like, I don't know about an episodic show again. Isn't that going backwards? But I think I'm kind of into it now. And then someone in one of my live chats, I want to say it was Maddie Jester, so you can correct me if I'm wrong in the chat there, were saying that you were hoping there would be like kind of a DS9 style of serialization where it would have, independent episodes, but then have the stories. I would even say like I would be fine if it was like a Next Generation style serialization where you had your Klingon disc combination thing every once in a while. But ultimately, I'm okay if it's completely episodic as long as there's character continuity. you do something in an episode and it has lasting effects. If something traumatic happens to you, you are still feeling it in the next episode. Things just aren't magically better in the next episode. And we've already seen, and again, this is something I'll get into more detail when we get into the character stuff. We've already seen that a storyline is carrying over for Captain Pike from Discovery. So something that happened to him in Discovery season 2 is still affecting him. So that's a positive sign, because that's what I want to see. I want to see some character continuity. I don't want a Voyager type situation, especially in the later seasons where they're just anti-continuity for anything, continuing anything from the previous episodes. I want to see things having lasting effects. I want to see things coming back up again. Even if we are having the adventure of the week, we can still have things that happened in previous episodes affecting our characters in future episodes. That is what I want to see. And so far, I'm feeling hopeful that they will pull that off. But what do you think, Mark?
I mean, yeah, everyone attached with the show was saying that is what they're going to do. That they're going to, even though every episode is going to be standalone episodic, they're going to keep the character continuity going. And yeah, as you said, like judging by the trailer, that seems to be the case. So I'm all for that. Like, I disagreed with. There's a lot of people who complain about Discovery and Picard being serialized, saying Star Trek is never serialized, it shouldn't be serialized. I disagree with that in its core. I think TNG is a lot more serialized than people give it credit for. It could only get away with so much, but it was in some sense. DS9 was best when it was serialized. Enterprise was best when it was serialized. Voyager was held back because it was not serialized. So I disagree with the principle that Star Trek shouldn't be serialized, but they've been having a hard time at doing serialization in modern Trek. They haven't quite nailed it in either Discovery or Picard. Picard is like especially it's way too fucking slow paced this season. They're throwing in all these other side plots. It's just a fucking mess. And Discovery still, is good. It's gotten better, but it still hasn't mastered like the mystery. It relies too much on the mystery of the season or whatever, and oftentimes is poorly paced as well. So I'm still for the idea of serialization in Star Trek. Hopefully they'll pin this down in some other shows, but I don't mind them going back to a episodic nature. I don't think Star Trek needs to. Like, I still disagree with the people who say it should be, but I don't mind it doing as long as they keep the character continuity, which it sounds like exactly what they're going to do. So I'm going to be all for it. The only thing I'm thinking is that I'm disappointed they're not having more episodes, because if we're having episodic episodes, I thought this season should have been longer, but it probably has to do with budget and whatnot, why it's still only 10 episodes. But yeah, I'm very curious to see what a modern Trek show will be like in an episodic format, and maybe it will be better in that regard.
So it is 10 episodes. I actually didn't know what the episode count
Oh,
was.
I think so. I'm not entirely sure, but I think I remember it being 10. Yeah.
Yeah. If anyone in the chat knows for certain, go ahead and drop that in there. But I mean, that sounds right to me. I would assume it's probably, I think for budgetary reasons, if nothing else. I was thinking maybe it could go up to like 12 or 13, because Discovery has been that many, which I have said Discovery needs to go down. It needs to go down to 10 or fewer because of the serialization, and they don't need that many episodes to tell their serialized story usually. But in an episodic format, I think you could go a little bit more. I think you could go up to like 13, 14, 15 if you wanted to. But I just do feel like budget will probably keep it from having too many episodes.
So according to IMDb, which isn't always accurate, but it says 10 episodes.
Yeah, and according to Matty Jester, who I don't know if he's always accurate, but he says that Strange New Worlds will be 10, and Matty's also the one who told me previously that Disco will also be 10 in its next season.
Which that should be.
Yeah, and let's see. There was a couple other things in the chat I wanted to touch on. Where was it? So Norman says I'm going to have to figure out how to start Thursday morning, get the bad out of the way first, or begin a day where I still have hope. I can tell you what I'm going to do. I am watching Strange New Worlds first. I am reviewing Strange New Worlds first, which is the opposite of what I said I was going to do before. Because when Discovery and Picard were on at the same time, I said, well, I'm just going to do the one that has already been on longer first and do the new one second. Having nothing to do with the quality. And I said, well, I'll do the same thing when there's 1 week of crossover between Strange New Worlds and Picard. But no, I'm not doing that because Picard sucks and I'm not watching him first. So I will watch Strange New Worlds first. I will review Strange New Worlds first. In fact, I will probably put up my Strange New Worlds review before I even watch Picard. And then I'll get that finale fiasco over with, and then I'll rant about it and then be done. But personally, I'm watching Strange New Worlds first, but you all, I could see that there could be, good and bad on both. Maybe you want to get the bad one out of the way first, and then cleanse your palate with the good one. I could see that being a good strategy as well, but I'm going to watch Strange New Worlds first, personally.
Yeah, like me too. Like I don't know why I couldn't possibly force myself to sit through that crap to wait to get to the Strange New Worlds. Like I want to go straight into it, and then I gotta fine. I'll go watch this fucking Picard finale, I guess, and do that afterwards.
And Brandon. Wait, well, who was it? Oh, no, it was Maddie who said, I'm going to get Picard out of the way. Nice and early. Strange New Worlds I'll watch later and hopefully enjoy it. And it sounds like Brandon agrees. Brandon's going to do that. You guys are going to watch Picard first, get it out of the way, and then watch Strange New Worlds later. Nothing wrong with that. That is not how I'm doing it, but you all do it however it works.
Well, yeah, you have more patience than I do.
Yeah. Maybe you're not as excited about Strange New Worlds as we are. That could be it too. Because Maddie says hopefully enjoy it. So I don't know. Maybe you're not as excited for it. And then Maddie says Strange New Worlds isn't available in your country. I didn't hear all the details. I heard something like that. Are they doing that same crap again where it's not available in certain countries, or I don't know.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah, I heard something vaguely about it, but I wasn't sure what the details were. I thought it was available in most countries. And Maddie, you're in the UK, right? Well, yeah. Maddie has ways. Find a way to watch it because it'll be worth it.
Arr.
Yeah. All right. Brandon says, patience, me? Don't be silly, dear host. Well, you got patience to sit through the crappy Picard before you get to the good stuff. All righty. Okay, let's go through each of the characters. I'll start with the big three. The ones from the original pilot and the ones from Star Trek Discovery Season 2. And of course, we'll start with Pike. We've already touched on what a great character Pike is, what a great captain he is, what a great actor Anson Mount is in that role. All of those things. I want to talk about his story that we know about, at least in the first episode. I don't know how much longer they'll linger on it, but certainly in the first episode. So we saw in the very first trailer, he's got this nice beard and he's riding horses. And I was like, what is the deal with that? And somebody calls him up on his communicator and is like, Pike, let's get back to work or something. And then if you saw the behind the scenes thing with, I don't think they called it the Ready Room, but it had Will Wheaton on it. It gives you a little more context than that the Enterprise is getting fixed up or whatever, and everybody's on a sabbatical. Because when I saw that, I was like, wait, who's the captain of the Enterprise? Well, Pike is riding a horse with a big beard, is like number one in charge. But no, I guess nobody is. They're just fixing up the Enterprise, and everyone is on sabbatical. And I think it's implied that the whole big beard thing and the riding the horse is him like dealing with what he learned in Star Trek Discovery season 2, where he saw himself in that wheelchair thingy. And I love how they modernized such a really really shitty low tech thing that they had from the 60s. And quite honestly, like I might have mentioned this in another video. I do feel like since the time that the Menagerie aired, which, Menagerie was one of the earlier episodes produced in the first season, I think since that time, I think it's been established that even in the 23rd century, I feel like the medical knowledge would be good enough where he would be fixed up more than that. but when the Menagerie was made, they hadn't, they were still figuring out the world and where exactly the technology they didn't even level was at, and they didn't even know what year they were in or anything like that. So you can't change it at this point. Like, that's canon. So you have to stick to that is Pike's fate, even though I do think they could do better job fixing him up than that, I'm sure. But anyways, so we see from the trailers that he's struggling with this. And I don't know if you saw the little sneak peek scene. It's just Pike and a lieutenant or ensign or something riding in on the shuttlecraft and going to the Enterprise, where the ensign or whatever says something along the lines of, "Oh, the Enterprise is all patched up and fixed up like new," and Pike mumbles, "If only it were that easy." So he's referring to himself. And then we do see some conversations between him and Spock in the trailer, talking about him having seen this. And this, I love that they did bring this over from Discovery. And that's what gives me hope that they are going to have character continuity. I don't know how long he's going to dwell on this. It might just be mostly the first episode, and then they kind of move past it. I don't know. But I find this a very interesting place to start Pike off in the series. A captain who is a really good captain, but we can see some vulnerability from him right away as well. Mark, you have thoughts on that or anything else with Pike?
I was kind of reminded of The Cage, because in that episode, Pike was getting down on himself and wanting to quit Starfleet and wanting to go ride horses and live on the farm in California. And so I was wondering if they'll call back to that and saying that his experience with having that vision he had is making him doubt himself again, and calling back to that, and that's why he grew that huge beard. So it'll be interesting. And I love, again, I totally agree with you. I love that they're continuing this story, and I think this will be something they're sort of probably carry on in some way throughout the whole season. Like, I don't think he's going to dwell on it the whole time, but and one of the things, the previews I watched, Spock was talking to him and saying that he's noticed, like, I noticed when you came back from that planet, well, I can't remember what that one was called, that you came back a changed man. And so it had affected him, and it's something that even Spock can notice, and that he's different because of this, and that's something that's always lingering over him, this future, this terrible future that he knows is going to happen. And so, yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. I think they could really do great things, and of course, as I already mentioned, loved Instant as Pike, and you can't wait to see what they're going to do.
Yeah, I I have a feeling I'm just really going to enjoy seeing Anson Mount as Pike in this season, just based off what I've seen in the trailer, and we've already seen it in Discovery. But I think we've only seen a touch of it in Discovery. I think they're really going to go further. I love the levity that we've seen, the comedy that we've seen. I think it's going to be. This is the type of comedy that works best in Star Trek to me, not including Lower Decks. Lower Decks is its own thing. But whereas Deep Space Nine always had to do like the ridiculous Ferengi episodes, or they're playing baseball in the middle of a war, or all these just stupid, ridiculous things, or the rivalry between Quark and this other dude, and just dumb things, and they were just more like over the top and very sitcomish. It was very 90s sitcomish, whereas to me, comedy has always worked best in Star Trek, whereas an overall serious storyline, but there's just good quips between the characters, lighthearted humor thrown in there during a serious situation, like moments of levity within an overall serious episode. I think generally that's where comedy works best in Star Trek, other than Lower Decks. Lower Decks is another animal, but that's what I've seen with Pike a lot. There's the very opening scene of one of the trailers. He's like beaming into the middle of this. These people are arguing with each other, and he's like, "Oh, excuse me." And it just seems like it's going to be funny and enjoyable, and that Anson Mount, I think, is going to kill it. I hope I'm not setting myself up for too high of an expectation, but from what I've seen so far, I just think he's going to really be good. So we'll see. We'll see if that happens. All right, Mark, anything else you want to add to Captain Pike?
I think that's about it. I just, this is the character we got the most of from Discovery, of course, and he was amazing and why people wanted the show. So I think it's absolutely going to carry the show.
Yeah. Yep. All right, now let's move into another character that we did actually see a lot in Discovery, even if it took them 6 episodes to find him. I forget how it took like half the season to find him. But once we saw him, I really enjoyed Ethan Peck as Spock. And I've said this before, I'll say it again. I think Ethan Peck is way better than Zachary Quintos as Spock. I'm sorry. Zachary Quintos is a fine actor. He was good in Heroes as the villain. I don't think he made a good Spock. I think he's way too emotional. But I like Ethan Peck. Now, Ethan Peck was playing a version of Spock in Discovery that was kind of going through a little bit of an emotional phase, and he was going through some character development. And so now we're going to see Ethan Peck playing a Spock who is becoming more like he's moving closer to the Spock that we saw in the original series, played by Leonard Nimoy. And he's going to be, looks like he's going to be struggling a lot with his humanity versus his vulcanity? What's the word for it? His, I don't know, him being half Vulcan, him being half human. That's going to be a struggle for him, maybe even in a way that it wasn't emphasized in the original series. I think that's what they're going to do, and I'm looking forward to it because I really think Ethan Peck is a good Spock. He's not going to be a Leonard Nimoy replica, nor should he be. He's going to bring his own twist, his own flair to Spock, to this character, as he should. But I think I liked him in Discovery, and I think he's going to be even better here. Now, there's a couple of specific plot points I wanted to touch on that we've seen from the trailer. But before I do that, what did you think about Ethan Peck and Spock, and what are you looking forward to with that?
Well, yeah, I agree. I really like Ethan Peck as Spock. I don't know if I'd say like Zachary Quinto wasn't good as Spock. It's more of the writing wasn't good. It's hard to judge, to blame so much of the actor because the writing was so terrible in those movies. I just hate those movies. But anyway, I think the writing is definitely gonna be more spot on with this character. And yeah, I do think, like, I see interviews with Ethan Peck, and he comes off as very Vulcan-like, even in his own personality. It's like hard to not see him as Spock now. And so, yeah, so he is Spock to me, and I just hope that, yeah, it doesn't have to copy Leonard Nimoy. It better not, but I want it to feel like Spock, and from everything I've seen, it is going to. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, and so The plot points look like we're getting is we're going to get a little bit of a prequel to Amok Time, it looks like, where we have seen him on screen with his betrothed wife. There's a scene in the trailer where they kiss. Of course, we now know what is going to happen, that she's totally going to leave him for this hunky looking dude and who doesn't have any lines. And there's an episode. I don't know if you've seen the episode titles, Mark, but they have the first 5 were released, and one of them is called. It's a play off of Amok Time. I forget exactly. Maybe Amok Spock. I don't know. It was something that the word "muck" in it or something. But it seems like that they're going to explore that a bit, and I hope they do it in an interesting way. Personally, like I think Amok Time is a bit overrated, and I don't think it's terrible or anything, but I don't think it's one of the great episodes of the original series, in my opinion. Spock Amok, Brandon Howell says, and Norman Buckwald said too. Yeah, Spock Amok. I thought it was Amok Spock.
Didn't Prodigy have like Time Amok?
Yes, it did. It did.
They need to get a bit more original with their episode titles.
As long as they don't have any version of, like, they'll have an episode called Maru because they had Kobayashi Maru and they had Kobayashi. No version of Kobayashi Maru. Let's give it a rest, people. No more Kobayashi Maru. Like, why were they so obsessed with Kobayashi Maru and Modern Trek? So I'd say as long as they don't do that, we only got the first 5 episode titles, or at least that I saw. So there's still another 5 that we haven't seen yet. So hopefully there's not one called Kobayashi Maru or anything like that. But yes, that's true. There was a Time Amok episode. But this one is Spock Amok. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know how super interested I am in that, to be honest. But hopefully they do it in a, hopefully they do it well. And we'll see.
I mean, that's exactly what I thought. When I was like, do we really need a prequel to Amok Time? I'm like, I don't know, but we'll see how they, like, if they make it interesting, they tie it in, like, I'll be open if they make it work, but I just hope that, I hope it's not just a shameless callback or trying to be like prequel-itis. Oh, we're setting up for this. Oh, I get it. Like, as long as they make it unique and original.
But the beauty of the episodic nature of the series is that if it sucks, it's just one episode and we just move on. So, or at least I'm assuming it's just in one episode. I don't know if we have scenes from him with his future wife or not future wife in any other episodes besides that, but I'm assuming one episode. And if it's not good, then we move on. That's fine. Speaking of moving on, I'm ready to move on if you are, Mark. Let's talk about number 1, also known as Una. And actually, she has a last name, too. I noticed in the Will Wheaton thing, they said what her last name was. I forget what it was.
Oh, really? No, I didn't catch that.
Yeah, like they said her last name. And maybe one of our really smart people in the chat can put and drop it in there. I'm glad they gave her a name, which I believe they did in one of the short tracks. I forget which one. I think they made it canon that her name was Una. I think Una being the name is... Oh, what were you saying, Mark?
Norman says Una numeral.
And Brandon says, you mean to pring? Yes, that's what I was talking about before. Yeah. But Una numeral. No, it's like a normal last name. It's a normal. I feel like it was even like a 2-part last name, like one of those 2-part last names. But I don't know. I forget now. I do think it's kind of dumb that her name is just one in Spanish, but
yeah, that is ridiculous.
I have known people named Una before. Usually, I've seen it spelled Oona, but it's a real name, so that's fine. Whatever. I actually am glad they gave her some name rather than continuing that gag that they did at the end of Discovery where they can never say her name, where she was being interrogated and they said, state your name. And I forget I forget how they got out of that now. There was some gag where she didn't state her name.
Yeah, it was just like number one. That's my name, number one.
Yeah, right. If they did that through the whole show, that would just be ridiculous. So I'm glad if she does have a name, even if it is kind of a silly name. But whatever. So we're getting a little bit of character stuff from her in the trailer that I'm interested in because I think it kind of goes along with not only how she was portrayed in Discovery and in the short tracks, but I would say that you could look at the Cage and probably see that could be the case where she's having this conversation with one of the other characters, which we'll get to in a couple minutes, where she's saying, well, as the first officer, I just don't have, I don't have time to socialize with the crew. And the other character says, well, it has nothing to do with you being first officer. It's just everybody's scared of you. So she comes off, she's a very intimidating presence. She comes off as somebody, I guess she's going to have that little Picard-esque sort of characteristic where she kind of keeps everybody at an arm's length. And hopefully we'll see some development. And I'm actually really looking forward to seeing how this character develops over time because I think Rebecca Romijn really, really does an amazing job with this character. Or she has so far in the very limited time that we have seen her. So that's kind of seems to be her starting spot, and I think we're going to see her develop from there. I don't know. What are your thoughts on Una number one?
I think there's kind of like a playfulness to the way that Rebecca Romijn plays her. Like I think there's definitely that I know the scene you're referencing, and there's definitely that intimidating aspect to her, and maybe that's how like the rest of the crew looks on her. But she has a really sort of playful relationship with Pike, which I think is really works. Like she is almost like quippy. Esque, so I think that dichotomy like that works for this character, and I would like them to see this develop more, and I hope it comes off as more natural that she has those different sides to her.
Yeah, and I think it will. And in the chat, Brandon, I can always count on you for the nerdy stuff, Brandon, that I can't remember. Una Chin Riley. That was the name that they gave her in the Will Wheaton thingy, the behind the scenes thing, which is a weird. I wonder. It seems like they're combining two last names specifically, so I don't know what the origin is of that. Riley makes me think of Lieutenant Riley. The I'll take you home again, Kathleen. But I don't know if there's another origin to that, and I don't know where the chin comes from, but I bet there's a story behind that last name. Anyways.
So we're gonna get all into the storyline they were saying they're gonna have for her at the start of the show.
Oh yeah, remind me what that was. I was gonna because I couldn't remember what it was.
Oh, right. So apparently she this is what like kicks off. I think it's just gonna be in the first episode, but it's what kicks off the whole thing. Is as you said, everyone's on vacation and resting while the Enterprise is getting fixed. But she's talking. The actress was in an interview talking about how her character Una is like a busybody. She can't stand. She doesn't want to go on like shore leave, so she gets involved in some mission and she gets in trouble, so the crew reassemble to go rescue her. And apparently that's going to be like the first episodes. Like she's going to be off doing like some covert ops type mission that Pike and crew had to reassemble to go get her out of.
Oh yes, okay, yes, I did see that. Yeah, and that that right there is very telling of her character, that she is this busybody and that she has to keep herself busy. She can't just go on vacation. And I think we'll probably, there's always a character like that in Star Trek. Picard was like that too, where Dr. Crusher always has to force him to take some time off. Janeway was like that as well, where the doctors always try to force her to be. But it looks like this time we're going to get that more in our first officer, more so in the captain. But I think that's very interesting that, she ends up getting herself in trouble because of that. So they got to get the band back together and go rescue her. um, yeah, I mean that actually sounds like a good way to start off this show. To have them all coming back from being on sabbatical and then having to go rescue Una. So I'm actually kind of interested in that.
Yeah, I mean that's a good like first episode concept because it's like they're reassembling, so it's a good. They have this familiarity with each other, but the audience will get to learn them as they come back together, and of course new characters are introduced as well.
Yeah. Yep. Um. Speaking of new characters, we can move on into some of them if you are ready, unless you have more to add with Una. All right, let's go through. And actually, the first one that I am going to talk about, the first one I have in my notes here, is not a new character. It is Cadet Ahorta. And I'm going to be honest with you, not a fan of them bringing back any legacy characters other than Spock, or at least not as regular parts of the show. We do know that we're getting Kirk in season 2. He's been cast. We've even seen set photos of it. And as long as it's one episode, I don't care so much. I am a little leery about having Cadet Ahorta. Really, was she a cadet on Pike's Enterprise? I don't know. But and then there's another one like that too that actually I'm really even more leery on than Ahura. We'll get into a little bit later. But I don't know. Whatever. It'll be fine. I'll quickly get over that because it's happening, and there's nothing I can do about it. And they are changing a bit of canon in that for the better, I think, in that there's a line in the trailer where she says she speaks 37 languages. And there was some video that I watched that kind of was talking about how this might be like kind of a direct reaction to when Uhura was in Star Trek 6 when I forget, I haven't watched Star Trek 6 again in my rewatch, so I haven't gotten to it yet, so I don't remember exactly, but they were trying to communicate with the Klingons. I don't know why the Universal Translator wasn't working, but she got a book out and was looking through the book of Klingon, and people were like, well, wouldn't Uhura know languages? Like, it seems like she should know languages. So this seems to be like kind of a response to that they're retconning that, oh, she does know 37 languages, or maybe she knows 37 and one of them isn't Klingon. I don't know. But I don't know. We also see a scene of Spock saying to her, like, Starfleet would be fortunate to have an officer like you. And that's probably more interactions than Spock and Uhura had in the original series. I don't know, they made them lovers and the other fucking whatever J.J. Abrams crap, but I don't even know that they had that many interactions, except there's one in the early first season where they're singing together, but I don't know. But so I think they may end up having more of a relationship in this show than they did in the original series. I don't know. I'll keep an open mind and I'll just accept it. But I'm not the hugest fan of including legacy characters. But Ellen, what's your thoughts on it?
So yeah, that scene in Star Trek 6 was added in there for humor, and it was dumb. You can kind of discount it. The whole scene doesn't make any sense. It's problematic. It's just there to have a funny scene. And they did say like that Chekhov was like, "Oh, we can't use the Universal Translator because he'll be recognized," which is just a bullshit line thrown in there to justify the scene. But anyway, so yeah, I'm okay with Uhura. Like, I'm okay with them having one or two legacy characters. I just don't. I was worried at first that they were going to have like all of them. That this would be like Sulu, Chekhov, and Scotty, and everyone would be there. And I'm like, no. In fact, I'm more against them having Kirk in season 2 than I am of them having, or like, we don't need early Kirk. Hopefully that is just one episode. I hadn't heard that. I thought it was going to be like a main cast member. So I hope, yeah, it is just one episode because we don't need Kirk. But having a Cadet Ahorta, I'm fine with that. Like, going back, I'm just finished watching season 3 of the original series. So I just finished watching the entire original series, and there are good moments of with Ahorta that develop her character, and she does have a few like little snippy moments with Spock and whatnot, but they're few and far between. So I'd love to see more of that, and I think the actress that got to play her looks very good. It was very interesting hearing that when she auditioned, she had no idea she was playing Ahorta. Like, they purposely kept that information from her until she got cast, and then when she was on her way to the get her costume, that's when they told her. So that's very interesting. That's how they decided to cast this character, is to make the actors not be aware, because they would try too hard to emulate Michelle Nichols. So that's a very interesting thing. And so, yeah, it does seem like they are making her more like Hoshi from Enterprise, which is what I think the idea of Ahorta should have been, where she knows all these different languages and whatnot. But yeah, maybe she just never learned Klingon. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because I was going to mention that too. I thought that was really cool. She mentioned she was like in the back of an Uber, and she was like freaking out, and her Uber driver was like, "What's going on?" She was like, "Oh, I'm Ahorta! Oh my god!" Yeah, she was on her way for the fitting for her costume when they told her. I thought that was awesome. And I think it was smart of them to do that, so that the actors who are trying out for the role are not trying too hard to emulate Nichelle Nichols, but the people who are doing the casting know it's Ahorta, so they can look at this performance and go, she's not trying to be Ahorta, but she's doing a good job of being Ahorta. Or good enough to make it work for this role. Just as with Spock, we are going to have a different spin on established characters, which each actor is going to bring their own flair to that role, which I'm totally fine with. I just don't. Spock has to be there because he was in the cage. The rest of them don't. So that's my only thing with that. Now, as far as Kirk goes, the rumor is, and I don't know if this is absolutely true, but I would kind of be okay with this, is that I guess I don't think it's canon, but I think it was maybe in a novel or something where Kirk was the captain of another ship before the Enterprise, so he's the captain of some other ship, and they come across that other ship in just one episode, and that's where Kirk would come in. Which, I mean, I would prefer not to have Kirk at all, but if they do that, whatever. And this is season 2 we're talking about, anyways. This is not season 1, but I'm more on board with that, actually, if it is a one episode thing, than I am with having legacy characters as regular characters, but I'm sure I'll be fine with it. I do like this actress too. I think she'll do a great job, so it'll be good. And then Norman and Brandon are talking about Harry Mudd. Yeah, we don't need Harry Mudd in here in this at all. And honestly, I don't want to see any characters from the original series, really. I don't mind seeing like aliens, like the Tholians. I think there looks like in one of the trailers, it looked like there was a Tholian web going on.
Yes, that's what it looked like to me, but I think it's not. Like, I examined it more, I think it looked like something else, but I hope I so desperately want to see the Tholians.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind if there were some aliens from the original series, but I don't want to see like specific characters like Harry Mudd, who we've already seen in Discovery, or anyone else, really.
It would be interesting to visit like certain places from like guests from episodes, like if they visit like the Cloud City from the Cloud Miners or something like that. That would be interesting.
Yeah, they can do that. All right, Mark, ready to move on to next? All right, so I want to talk about. I can never remember exactly how to say her first name. Laan Noonien Singh. And before I get into some of the specifics of this character, I have to start with the elephant in the room. What is the deal with Noonien Singh? What is going on there? It seems like the showrunners are specifically keeping that secret, and they're playing coy. I get a little worried when they just start rubbing up against canon like this. So, um, is she related to Khan? Is she a descendant of Khan? If so, how is that possible? Also, so Spock knew all about Noonien Singh, or he knew all about Khan before Space Seed. So when they go to find Khan at Space Seed, he should say, "Well, I served with Khan's ancestor on the Enterprise under Pike." I don't know. I don't know what they're doing with that, and it worries me. I wish they would just completely stay away from canon. But the showrunners are playing coy. They're purposely keeping this mysterious. So I don't know what the deal is with it. I'm a little bit nervous about it, but I guess we'll just see what they're doing with this. Do you have any thoughts on that, Mark?
Yeah, I agree. Stay away from Khan. Like, just it's not gonna make any sense. Why you call this character Noonien Singh? I don't know, but she looks like an interesting character. Like, judging by what they have from her so far, like a sort of badass security, and it seems like she has this dark past. Now, I wouldn't be opposed to that. But if they have it where she's like an augment of some kind or something, again, as you say, that would make no sense for Space Seed. But I don't know. I'm here for this character. I just don't want them to stay away from Khan. That's all.
Yeah. I know. I'm muted. I agree, and I want to get more into this character in a second, but I got to point out in the chat, Norman saying no Soong ancestor either, please. Yes, we don't need to see Prince Spiner showing up as another Soong, please. We don't need it. Don't give me that. No. So yes, and anyways, just had to point that out from the chat. Yeah, I do think she's a very interesting character. So my first thought when I very, very first saw her trailer, I was like, is that Drummer? She looked a lot like Drummer. It's totally not. I think she's a much younger actress than who played Drummer, but just the way that her hair was worn and the fact that she's just kind of this hard as nails kind of security officer type of person that she reminded me a lot of Drummer from The Expanse, of course. But yeah, she does seem to have this backstory where she's the only survivor, something like that. Although when I very, very, very first read about this character, long before I even saw the trailer, they had mentioned she has a brother too. So I think that's probably going to come in another episode or something. But I'm kind of interested in where they're going with that, and yeah, she seems to be this, hard as nails chief of security, but there seems to be a lot more to her to that. We've seen a little bit of interplay between her and Una. There's even a fight scene between her and Una, and I don't know what starts that in the trailer.
Oh, really? I didn't miss that one.
I think it was in one of the early trailers. It might have been in her first trailer. I don't remember. And it's like a blink if you miss a thing. I think the only reason I even saw it is because some other YouTube video I was watching was talking about it.
Like freeze framing.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I'm actually really interested in this character and what they're going to do with her. I'm a little nervous about the Noonien Singh thing. Do you have anything else to add on this character?
No.
All right, let's move on to the Helms person, the pilot, Lieutenant Ortega. And we learn in the behind-the-scenes thing that our first name is Erica. So Lieutenant Erica Ortega. I'm really enjoying little snippets of we got with the little banter between her and Pike. Where Pike asks her to get closer, and she's like, "So, should it be first date close or second date close?" And Pike goes, "Blind date close," and she's keeping distance, Captain. And there's another scene in one of the trailers where Pike is, talking to some aliens or whatever, and like, "Oh, if only we could work this out," and they abruptly cut him off, and she's like, "I think going pretty well, and it just seems like there's going to be some really good like banter between them. Hopefully we get a little bit more into her character than just that. There's just also a mention of her being like trying to be the best pilot, which I'm kind of, I don't know. Tom Paris thought he was the best pilot in Starfleet, and then Detmer is the best pilot in Starfleet, and I'm kind of a little bit over that cliche, but I'm curious to see what they do with this character. You have any thoughts, Mark?
I definitely getting a Tom Paris vibe from her, but I think looks like she might be better than Tom Paris. Looks like it would be what Tom Paris should have been, someone who was sort of lighthearted and quippy, and Tom Paris just became goofy and annoying towards the end of the show. But yeah, it seems like she is going to be kind of almost a comic, I don't want to say comic relief, but sort of a lighthearted, like quippy type character, which I'm all good with, and I think it might be again, I feel like the whole cast they have looks really interesting, and like they might gel definitely more than the new Trek show. So yeah, and it looks like she's going to be an interesting character.
Yeah, as long as she doesn't hook up to an alien shuttlecraft and have a fatal attraction romance with the shuttlecraft, I'm good. I'm good there.
And she doesn't break the warp 10 barrier and turn into a salamander.
Yes. I think Matty Jester pointed out that the original Star Trek pitch from the 60s had a helmsman called Ortega, so that's a fun reference. I love you guys pointing these things out that I didn't know. That's very cool. The other thing I kind of want to mention about this character, now I don't want to make assumptions. I don't want to jump to conclusions just based on how she looks, the haircut she has, and kind of the way she carries herself. But I'm actually really hoping that this turns out to be an LGBTQ character. And the reason why I'm hoping that is because I haven't read anything about her being that. So that would show us that Star Trek has really gotten to the point where we can just have an LGBTQ character just like we have hetero characters, and we don't have to make a big fanfare about it. And not that I blame them for doing that with Adira and with Gray. I think they should have done that with those characters. It was a big deal having a trans character and a non-binary character in Star Trek. That was a huge deal. So I'm not faulting them for that. And they've already like kind of done a low-key thing with Mariner just casually coming out as pansexual in the throwaway line. So they've already started that. So I'd like to see that continue. So this character doesn't have to be LGBTQ just because of the way she looks. She can very well be straight, but I'm kind of like holding out a little bit of hope that they do set her up as an LGBTQ character, and it's one that she just is. Like any more than you don't have to like make a big deal out of it anymore, and you have to make a big deal about the fact that Pike is straight or Una is straight or whoever. I actually don't know that Una is straight. She could be LGBTQ too, for all I know. But you know what I'm saying? Like I'm kind of hopeful, if not her, then there's that they keep doing what they did with Mariner and just slide in LGBTQ characters seamlessly without having to, make a huge deal of it.
Yeah, absolutely agree. 100%. Like she doesn't have to be, but yeah, it's getting some of that vibe, and that they make her that way. Yeah, just low key. Absolutely.
Yeah. Anyways, I'm really looking.
Wait, hold on. Sorry. Brandon in the chat says, I'm shipping Mariner and Garrick. What? Why are you shipping Mariner and Garrick? That's a very odd. I guess because Garrick was supposed to be pansexual originally, but that's a very odd pairing.
That's a very odd pairing. No. Mariner's hooking up with Jennifer the Andorian.
Yes.
I'm here for that. I'm looking forward to that hot relationship between Mariner and Jennifer the Andorian. Let's not get distracted from that. Anyway, wait, what did the person who plays New Ortegas on Twitter posted it? Oh, posted that there was an original person called Ortegas. Okay, I get you. Okay, let's move on to Himmer, who I think is the chief engineer. It's never been officially stated, but he seems like he's the chief engineer. He's blind and he's not an Andorian, apparently, according to the behind the scenes thing. He's like I forget the name of it. It was some subspecies.
Aranar. So I can explain
Aranar.
this.
Yeah,
because
explain that, please.
I've seen the Enterprise episode recently. There's a 3-parter in season 4 of Enterprise that introduces. In fact, the whole episode is called the Aranar. There's apparently a subspecies of Andorians that live. I think it's on the same planet, but it's like in a isolated Arctic area most of the Andorians are like isolated from them and don't really deal with them, and they're all blind, but they have like telepathic abilities and whatnot. So they're so it's kind of Andorian. It's like a subspecies of Andorian.
Oh, so he's not unique in his species and being blind. They all are.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
If I remember correctly, I think so. Yeah, they were all like blind, but they all had like some like telepathic abilities, so they could sense everything. And they lived in like those freezing cold conditions, like underground.
Oh, interesting. What season of Enterprise is that?
Season 4.
Oh, okay.
The good season.
The good season. Eventually, I will get to my Enterprise rewatch. I just don't want to suffer through the first 2 seasons.
Which is totally understandable.
I think after June, after I get through Star Trek 6, I'm doing all the movies. Then I'll probably dive into Enterprise. But that's interesting because I didn't remember that at all. So thank you for enlightening me on that. So this is a species that has been established previously in Enterprise. And there was some hints, there was some line in there about how he more than compensates for him being blind. And then they cut to him and he says, compensate, I am perfect, or something along those lines. I'm superior, I think is what he says. Definitely this dude has an ego. You can definitely see that. He's very high on himself. There's another line where someone says, how did you do that? And he's like, I am a genius. So, but then there's another line with this character where he's talking to, I forget who it was. It was either Ahorta or one of the other ones where he's talking about death. And he has this very interesting philosophical take on death. So I think this is going to be an interesting character where he's going to come off as very egotistic, but I think there's going to be more to that. And I'm actually really interested in seeing what they do with this character. I don't know how much of a role he'll play in the show, but I find it very interesting, even without even having known the backstory that you just told us from Enterprise. I was already interested in this character.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting that they ran with this, species introduced in Enterprise. And it's it's not really an Andorian, it's a subspecies of Andorian, but it's the first kind of Andorian that we got as the main character in the cast. So again, that they drew from the one specific episode, I thought was very interesting. But yeah, I do get the sense that he's the chief engineer, and I do get the sense he is a little bit. I don't know if he's arrogant. I think he would just come off as a bit arrogant. He's just like really no nonsense, like sure of himself. And I think the one thing I remember him saying is that like everyone has like something like everyone has a purpose in life, and they're like, well, what's your purpose? Like mine is to fix things. And I find that really interesting. From what my understanding is that they cast a blind actor to play him. Which was a really interesting choice as well. I think that's so. Yeah, I mean, people are already comparing him to Geordi LaForge, but Geordi, has that little device that lets him see this guy actually is blind. He just has all these other, telekinetic abilities or whatever.
Yeah, there can be more than one blind chief engineer, and
yes,
it's possible. It doesn't have to be Geordi LaForge. Yeah, I guess I will It's interesting you're talking about telepathic abilities because I didn't know that. I was getting Daredevil vibes from it.
Oh, yes.
The way that was being
I
described.
think that's how they're going to play it off. But yeah, definitely.
Anything else on this character?
Oh, no, I think that's about it.
I also just kind of wanted to mention this is a character that didn't get his own trailer, but he is the one who said that line that I said earlier, where he's like, "Oh, how did you do that?" That apparently is Lieutenant Kyle. I heard some video that I watched, and he looks Mr. Kyle from the original series. He's kind of like the Chief O'Brien of the original series, back when Chief O'Brien, like the first and second season, where he's mainly just the transporter chief. He was that in the original series. He appeared in a lot of episodes. He was mainly the transporter chief, but occasionally he would be on the bridge too. So he's apparently in this show, except he's being played by an actor with very dark hair and kind of a dark complexion, while Mr. Kyle looked Irish as fuck. So I think it's a weird casting. But I assume he's going to be just as minor as Mr. Kyle was in the original series.
Is that meant to be him?
Yeah, that's what I saw. A YouTube video that said that was Mr. Kyle. That was Lieutenant Kyle. But he doesn't look anything like him. But,
yeah, the main thing I remember from him is no, Mr. Spock, no, Mr. Spock.
Yeah. I like to talk about Mr. Kyle in my reviews, and I always use that as an example of who Mr. Kyle is. He's the one who goes, "No, Mr. Spock, no."
Your agonizer, please, Mr.
Yeah. And then he appeared in, and I didn't realize this until I did my movie rewatch. He was either in Star Trek 2 on the Reliant or Star Trek 3 in the Grissom. I think it was one or the other.
Star Trek 2 on the Reliant.
On the Reliant, okay, yeah. He was on one of the other ships, and I had no idea until I did my rewatch. I was like, that's Mr. Kyle. He's in the movies.
No, I remembered that.
Yeah. Anyways, so let's move on to another character who I wouldn't consider a legacy character per se, but he appeared in the original series. It's Dr. Mabenga. And from what I'm seeing in the trailers, I am really interested in this character. But before I get into kind of the character himself and some of his traits, I kind of just want to talk about the fact that he was in the original series. I remember him in one episode. Marc, was he in more than one? Do you remember?
Yeah, he was in 2 episodes.
He was in 2 episodes.
I do remember that specifically, yeah.
So I love that they did that they took this character. And I love that in the original series did sometimes show that there was a second Doctor other than McCoy, because I really have been bothered by this idea that a starship with 300 people, like the original Enterprise, or 1,000 people, especially like in Enterprise D, has one Doctor. Like, I think that makes no sense. Voyager is the only one where it makes sense because the Doctors, you can say all the Doctors died and they had to do the emergency hologram.
They have a smaller crew, too.
Yeah, they have a smaller crew. Yeah, sure. But I never thought it made a lot of sense. And Next Generation, they actually had a Vulcan doctor named Dr. Solar.
Yes.
2 seasons. In the second season, she appeared, and then she gets referenced a few times in later seasons, but never seen.
Yeah.
Discovery was the first one where they actually showed that there's more than one doctor, but then Culber turned into the ship's counselor.
Yeah, I don't think Culber was ever the chief medical officer.
Yeah. I don't think he ever was the chief medical officer. No, I think Pollard always was. So they always showed that Discovery showed that there was more than one doctor. So I always appreciate it when I see episodes where, oh, look, there's more than one doctor. The downside of this is, why does he get demoted when McCoy
comes?
That's
what I'm thinking.
Because he even says in the trailer, he says flat out, "Oh, I am the chief medical officer of the flagship of Starfleet." Then why does he get demoted? Racist Starfleet demoting their black doctor for the. So I don't know. I don't think we're ever going to get an explanation for that. I don't know.
I did, as I said, just watch the original series, and this character, his few appearances, he did come off as kind of like playful. And I do get that impression that he's going to be played that way here too. So it's going to seem like it's going to be true to those just two performances. Although he didn't, like someone else pointed out, that he didn't really have an African accent in the original series, but he seems to here. But that's fine. Like, I don't care about that. The actor looks really good playing him. So yeah, I mean, it might make sense for them to just create a new character, because now you're going to have to answer why he's getting demoted. Maybe he goes off in some rogue mission, defies orders, and gets demoted. I don't know. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to this character too.
Yeah, they're playing him off as kind of, an outside the box thinker, kind of a little quirky. There's a scene of him like putting ground sea urchin on Spock, and he has the quirky line, "Oh, it's going to be all over Starfleet eventually, I promise you." And he seems to be a very fun and interesting character. I'm really looking forward to seeing this character in this show. I just want to know why he gets demoted. All right. Anything else on Dr. Mabenga? All right. The last character I have on my list, and you can let me know if I'm forgetting any, but it's the last character that I have is also in sick bay. We're gonna have Nurse Chapel, another legacy character, and I was noticing that we have two different Magil Barrett characters played by two different actresses. So I was thinking, are they going to try to do some kind of episode where there's maybe some time travel shenanigans and Loxana Troy goes back in time or something, so they could have all three Magil Barrett characters? Because I don't think she would be, unless they're going to say Betazoids are like Vulcans and age a lot. I don't think that's true. So I don't think they can she would be born yet. But I do think it's kind of cool that they have two different Magil Barrett characters played by two completely different actresses. The couple things that bug me a little bit though from the trailers is, one, it looks like her and Spock are on a date, and there seems like they're really diving into the whole thing where Nurse Chapel had a crush on Spock, but before that happened, they already went on a date, which I don't think I like. And they seem to be really playing up the Spock and Nurse Chapel romance before the original series, which I don't like at all, but I guess I'll wait and see what they actually do with that. And then the second thing is they're really portraying her as like this martial arts expert or something, like this badass fighter, which she never was. So I don't know. I feel like they should have just called it a different character, but I don't know. Again, not a huge fan of reusing legacy characters. I don't know. What are your thoughts on Nurse Chapel?
Yeah, she's probably the one character not looking forward to, and I don't have good vibes about, and I don't think they should. I had no issue with them including Ahorta, but her, Nurse Chapel, and the main thing is like from the trailers and from the scenes that we get with her, she seems like very confident, sure of herself, and quirky and whatnot, and seems absolutely nothing like Nurse Chapel was portrayed. And to be honest, like I didn't like the way Nurse Chapel was portrayed in the original series, because she was mostly just like, oh, doctor, blah blah, seen as someone who's a really weak character who is just like pining after Spock and just crushing on Spock the whole time. And yeah, I don't want to see that. And then they do try to make it so they went out on a date and that she rejected him or some shit like that, then that's just, they're just fucking with canon, and that is just, rather than not have this character at all, have another character and have this actress play another character, call her something else, and then do this. We don't need Nurse Chapel. But anyway, hopefully it won't be as bad as I think. But yeah, that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. You can have the same actress, have her play a different character. Why does it have to be Nurse Chapel? It doesn't make a lot of sense. I'm much more willing to accept Ahorta than this. I don't. I think they're just going to obliterate canon as far as I can see. Though I do agree that I don't like the way Nurse Chapel was portrayed in the original series. As I've talked about before, the original series gets a lot of credit for having women in space. That's good, but the portrayal of female characters was piss poor for the most part, with a couple of exceptions. And Ahorta didn't get enough to do in the original series. She was probably the most well-rounded character, but she didn't really get enough to do. And the other female characters were bringing Captain Kirk coffee, or they were put into the plot for the sole purpose of being the object of romance or the object of sex of one of the male characters. So female characters,
yep,
yeah, female characters in general were not actually really well treated in the original series, and Nurse Chapel is among that. So I get changing that for this show, but then you're changing the character. So let's just not even call it Nurse Chapel. Just call it something else entirely.
Brandon says, how many times does Spock have to throw palmic soup at Nurse Chapel to get her to go away?
Yeah. Oh, Brandon says the black engineer woman. Yeah, she was in one episode, and they were like, "Well, no, she's too strong of a woman." And
alternative factor.
Yeah, we have to get her out of here.
Yeah, she was Lieutenant Masters. That was her name. Yeah, God, she was a good character.
Yeah.
I guarantee the network was saying, "Nah, we need this. She's too much of a strong female character."
Yeah. Yep. What else was I gonna? There was something else I just saw in the chat. Oh, Norman said that Magilbear played 4 characters. Don't forget the computer voice. I didn't forget the computer voice. I was saying that we need to get all the Magilbear characters together. The computer voice is always there. So you just have... they're all played by different actresses. Obviously, it won't be Magilbear doing the computer voice any more than it's Magilbear doing Nurse Chapel or Number One or Roxanne Troy. So I'm saying you get them all 3 together, and then you have them talking to the computer, and then you have all the Magilbear characters together.
Yeah, I don't think we should be asking for more Roxanne.
No, I am actually kidding. I don't actually want to see this. No, I never need to see Roxanne and Troy ever.
Oh my God, do you imagine how horrible that would be if they brought in like a prequel of Roxanne and Troy? I think at one point, like, Roddenberry wanted to do a spinoff with just Roxanne and Troy show. I think I remember hearing about that.
Yeah, because it was his wife.
Yeah.
That would have been
so bad.
Oh
my God.
Didn't the Enterprise D have a female chief engineer in season 1 and then she disappeared forever? Yes. Yeah, the Enterprise D had like the
several chief engineers. Yeah.
She was the chief engineer. I think she was the chief engineer at the very beginning in the Naked Now, I think.
Naked Now.
Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, they did. But honestly, I think Next Generation did better at their portrayal of female characters than the original series did. Wasn't perfect, but they did better. Alrighty. I think that is all I had to talk about. Mark, did you have anything else to add? Anything else we missed?
No, not really. I think we covered about everything. As I said, like, really looking forward to Trails Look Great. And hopefully I could really use a good Star Trek show right now. To cleanse the palate. Like, I could really use it. So I'm really hoping that, and this is the show I've been anticipating the most for like the past year. So I'm hoping it is every bit as good as I hope it will be.
Yeah. I really need a palate cleanser after this. That's just garbage. We've been having to suffer through for the past 9 weeks. Yeah, hopefully it is, and it looks very promising from what we've seen so far of it. And of course, we've gotten a preview of the main 3 characters from Star Trek Discovery. So I'm really very hopeful for this show. May is a big month in Nerd Kingdom because two of the most anticipated shows in Star Trek and Star Wars are coming out in May. One at the beginning of May, one at the end of May. And you got Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, which is one of the most anticipated MCU films coming out. I mean, May is a huge month for nerds. So I'm looking forward to all that. All right, and Maddie says, one more episode of Picard, people. We can get through it. And then on to Strange New Worlds. Goodness. Yes, I'm still going to watch Strange New Worlds first. then I'm like, then I'll suffer through the last episode of Picard, the cluster that's likely to be. Okay. All right, everyone. I think that is a wrap. Thank you once again to Norman, Maddie, Brandon, and Life in the Void, all joining us in the chat. My regular entourage here in the chat. Good to see you all yet again, talking a little bit about some Strange New Worlds. Marc, do you want to, I know the people in the chat know where you are, but maybe other people watching might want to know where you are and how they can find you.
So, on my channel's Enchantment of Eternity, I will be covering Strange New Worlds weekly after I do that last bullshit with Picard. And I just dropped my top 30 favorite episodes of Star Wars Clone Wars. So I complete my coverage of that. And now I'm watching Rebels next. And I will be dropping my season 3 review of the original series soon as well. So keep an eye on my channel for all that goodness.
All right. And of course, my name is Alyssa, and you are watching me here on my channel, Alyssa Jeans Reviews. I have been covering Picard weekly too, unfortunately, and I will be covering Strange New Worlds weekly. I also am going to be covering Obi-Wan weekly as well. I haven't really covered the Star Wars shows weekly, but I think I'm going to do that one. Actually, May is going to be a very busy month for me because of all the Moon Knight finale and Strange New Worlds and Multiverse of Madness and Obi-Wan at the end of the month. I actually will be releasing my May calendar video either later tonight or probably tomorrow. I'll be telling you everything that I'm doing in the month of May. And there's going to be a lot of stuff. I'm going to be reviewing a lot of stuff in May because there's a lot of cool stuff. As I said, it's like it's the nerd's dream in the month of May. It's the month that we have all been waiting for. Not the Orville, though. Norman Buckwald points out Orville is coming in June. That's how I feel about that. All right, Life in the Void. Finished second brekkie, now on to first lunch. Nice little Hobbit reference there. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you very soon.